Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton at Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free, and the home of the brave, on a beautiful February the 24th, 2020, Rondo Deportes. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, I almost sing like I'm floating away because, it's been raining down here for the past 5 days. I'm about to put in a tweet to Jerry Jones to see if I can borrow that new yacht he got last year for Christmas.
Yeah, a new yacht, or probably just added on to, maybe he had it refurbished, Big C, like a lot of my good old friends do here in California. I do want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, Big C Sports, powered by Google. And Alexa, just say Google, or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing, and I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate the way things are going with that. So, Big C, did you say that Jerry Jones is going to rent your yacht, or he's going to let you borrow his yacht, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I'm hoping that we're good enough buddies. He'll let me borrow his yacht. I know he won't let a black coach nominee stay at his house, but maybe he'll let me stay on his boat.
Well, he might let you stay on the boat, but you can't spend the night, Big C. You know what that means. You can stay, but you can't spend the night. You won't be offended, Big C, will you?
Well, I'm going to have to be able to sleep on that. With all the water we got going on down here, it seems like the ocean will be coming in pretty soon.
That's funny. He will leave the light on for you, but he'll turn it off when it's time to leave. Just having a little bit of fun in today's beautiful world. We do want to say and give homage to our military veterans. We have a Veterans Crisis Hotline, and they are experienced at helping veterans and loved ones, because people going through all kind of issues, Big C, and they fight for the country. When they come back, they need help, Big C. They can call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or they can text 838-255. That's 838-255. Or if you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, Charlton, life in America is very important, and especially for those who have made the way of life in America easy to live, and that's our service men and women, Charlton, that have gone out and dealt with strikes around the world and come home and haven't found a world of comfort when they return back home, Charlton, that they've been prejudged what type of people they need to be.
Yeah.
And many of those have suffered horrific problems from war, Charlton, mentally and physically. And unfortunately, some 19 a day commit suicide in this country, and that's a horrific disease, Charlton, to have to deal with, and a plight in life to have to deal with. And we would think that our federal government would do more on a daily basis to attend to our great veterans' needs. But politics is about fighting each other, not for fighting for those who have fought for us.
Yeah.
And even our young citizens of America, Charlton, that are out there committing suicide. This is something that should not happen in this great country. I know we give out the suicide prevention hotline number, Charlton. Is that enough? I know we can do more as a country and as a people to help out our neighbors in need. And the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is a number to start with. But we have to do more as a culture and as a country to help these great veterans and citizens of the United States.
And very well said. And Big C, I love doing our part. 800-273-8255, 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can hopefully get some help. I really appreciate that, especially in today's climate. It's nice to have just the knowledge that some things are out there. Also, I want to pay homage to our veterans every day, and not just on the days that we do the show. So I'm hoping that people really do reach out and do that. In the emergence of e-commerce, I do just want to mention that we're launching the real estate listing channel in the spring of 2020. Having some great conversations with that over the last couple of days. There are already many channels like that around the country, but we're doing that with the Big C team in spring of 2020. The goal is simply to recruit 100 real estate brokers to put your properties on television. If you go to your listing appointment and you tell your client that we will also do all the other ancillary marketing, but we can actually put your property on television, I think that makes a lot of people happy, and you're more likely to get that listing. That's launching in spring of 2020. Big C is so hot in California, it already does feel like spring, and I know there's a lot of stuff that happened over this past weekend. You know, I've really been here in California. I feel it a lot. I know sometimes I think no one can tell anyone how to celebrate. No one can tell anyone anything. And so I really appreciate what I saw today at Staples Center in Southern California. And, you know, ironically, I'm so grateful. I mean, I'm so grateful because every day, especially getting able to do, you know, having the chance to do what I want to do. Some things I do because I got to do them. Others I do because I want to do them. And I enjoy having the chance to talk with you about sports and entertainment and politics and things that make the world go round. And that, to me, that's part of celebration. Big C, a lot of athletes were talking about, you know, not just Kobe's life, but their life too. There's a lot of people that have a lot to be grateful for if they choose to see it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, life is something to be grateful for every day, Charlton. The greatest joy that you can have in life is waking up. That's 99% of the battle that anybody has to deal with. And everybody deals with losses in life in a different way. I know what Gianna is going through. I've dealt with that tragedy in my life. So everybody has a personal way that they look upon things.
Yeah, and it's true, and we all do. And that's why I love the fact that they call it, you know, celebration of life. And for the LA Lakers in the city of Los Angeles, so many great NBA stars were there celebrating Kobe, Gianna, and the total 9 lives, you know, that perished because of a helicopter, you know, flying in the fog as things come out to more public information. I really appreciate it more so than ever in my lifetime. Not that no one owes anybody anything, but I really saw that Michael Jordan gave a really nice, you know, some really nice thoughts. Not necessarily a speech, but just spoke from the heart. And, you know, I want to just say this because it's personal to me. As young men of color, I know if you know your history, all life began on the African continent. So that's why I'm always a little bit flummoxed when people act like, you know, what is it like to be black? If you Google it, everybody black because we all have that dominant gene. And what I saw in Los Angeles today, I know it has different racial and ethnic makeups and financial, but what I saw is when I hear men just pour out their feelings about, you know, I'm hurting too. Because a lot of men, they're taught to don't cry. If you're a little boy, don't cry. Don't show your emotion. A man doesn't cry. There's even been songs about that. But to see people that we can relate to, or at least we think we know them by fiat, just because they played sports or entertainers, to see someone really, you know, just let loose, that let me let loose also. That make any sense, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, like I said, Charlton, everybody deals in that in the light that they want to deal with it. If you look at how we start out our show every day and talking about suicide in America, think about those people who have to deal with suicide loss in their families every day, Charlton, and it's never publicized. It's never made a global spectacle. I know everybody looks at sports as that they have to be the leaders and the vanguards of society, but we have to look at our everyday people who struggle. You think about our military veterans who made this opportunity for everybody to get together in Los Angeles happen today. Yep. And people don't give them that same servitude. I'm not slighting the loss of Kobe Bryant and his family and the rest of those people who perished on the helicopter.
Yeah.
But we have to look at the everyday sacrifices that people make in America that lose their lives and their family loses them, and no one sits there and gives it a second thought either.
Yeah, that's very well said, and it's all, and everybody has their own way, you know, of going through things. But I think what I want to lament, because there's a legacy that we're all gotta have. We're all on borrowed time. We're all have that sand, that sand glass or whatever it is, the hourglass where the sand pours out of it. We all have that. But I just appreciate and just offer my thoughts to his wife, Vanessa. Also, there's so many legends that were there. Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, and Beyonce gave a great opening. Alicia Keys, Christina Aguilera performed. Just so many great things to be appreciative of. And seeing guys like Jerry West, of course, Steph Curry, and just Jimmy Kimmel. I've watched him many times, but I'm not really a late night person, but I think I'll watch him more, just realizing how people come together with that. The last thing I'll say on the thing with Kobe Bryant, everybody has someone in their lives that means something to them. And what I've always wanted to see is that don't wait until people are gone before you tell them you love them. And to hear so many conversations that had nothing to do with sports, oftentimes these great men talked about Kobe, and they were talking about him asking for advice on his daughter, whether it's Gino Auriemma, whether it was a Michael Jordan, talked about advice on business. And as black men, Big C, most of my business contacts, they don't look like me, which is painful, but I know we're not the majority society. So I love just having black men reach out to others and say how they became wealthy in business, how they became good fathers, how they learned from their parents and grandparents, how they also learned to forgive, he called Kobe his little brother. And, everybody has people that they can reach out to. And it just reminds me that I feel very blessed. I grew up with grandparents. I grew up with both parents. I grew up with my siblings, have very close relationships with siblings. People go through and out of different moments. But to me, it's just important that we see that black men are more than just athletes. And I saw some of that today. I'll let you close on that, and then we'll get on to what happened down in Las Vegas. Big C, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, I always grew up that way. And if you look at since desegregation, people forgot that black men were more than just athletes, because now black society focuses only on the athlete and not those who are out there leading the way and fighting the path for every everyday individual. Athletes are a limited population when you look at it, a limited institution.
Yeah.
But when you look at blacks who are out there every day providing opportunities for other blacks, showing them the path of promise, and not that they have to dribble a basketball or shoot a basketball or throw a football or catch a football. That's what we lose focus of. I understand the celebration of life of an individual who was a great contributor in the sports world.
Yeah.
But you have to look at those who are out there who are great contributors within the community.
Every day.
And think about the lives that they lead and the plight that they lead for others.
Yeah.
We lose focus of that because we focus so much just on athletes.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that so much. I just am so grateful that growing up in my life, I've heard a lot of good reinforcement, especially for parents and grandparents and then siblings. And so that, to me, it just, oftentimes you hear a lot of good things about people once they're gone, and we're not privy to a lot of stories that people have when people are around. There's many things that you and I talk about, Big C, that's helped me, over the years. And I know someday when I'm gone, I want to make sure that my kids say, you know what, Dad taught me that, or Dad told me about that. My mom always says, pray about things. My dad always says, think about things, just think it through, be the bigger person. My mom says the same thing. And I realize as a parent, when my kids will ask me for some advice, or sometimes they get it on their own, that's fine. But to me, I just hope that they understand that, Dad says, I love you every day, and they don't have to question that. So again, congratulations on the celebration of life, and really thoughts and prayers to all the 9 family members, but especially to Vanessa that was able to hold herself together and speak. Really appreciate that. Big C, I want to get down to the desert, and they say Las Vegas is an oasis. But what I saw in Las Vegas, it wasn't quite what I thought, but I thought I was going to hear, down goes Wilder, down goes Wilder, like down goes Frazier, down goes Frazier. When I took my emotion out of it, because I wanted Deontay Wilder to win. Tyson Fury's a good man. Both of them are really good men. I think they represent the world of boxing very well. But I heard a guy by the name of Teddy Atlas talk, and he talked about one guy's a fighter, one guy's a puncher, and there's a difference. Big C, give me your thoughts on, this was not the greatest heavyweight fight, in my opinion, but it was kind of a crowd pleaser, I guess, if you could say that. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, if you want my opinion, you should go back and listen to our Friday show when I informed you what would happen in this fight. Is that Deontay Wilder was frustrated after the first fight because he had given Tyson Fury all he had and could not knock him out. And you were saying, well, the guy was knocked out twice. No, he got up off the mat twice. Tyson Fury was not a boxer. He was just a slugger in there. And going into this fight, as I explained, that Tyson Fury had to lose 150 pounds to be able to get down the weight to fight Deontay Wilder, so he didn't have the strength that he needed in that first fight. But he also proved to Deontay Wilder that he could not stand with him toe-to-toe over the length of a fight.
Yeah.
And I also told you that if you go back to Ali Frazier, when Foreman was not used to hearing round 3, round 5, round 7, round 11. This is the same thing with Deontay Wilder. You have to understand the mental state that a person gets into when he's not used to being challenged more than a couple of rounds. Is that all of a sudden he becomes weak in mind, and that's where Deontay Wilder was, is that he could not keep up with Tyson Fury because he was a boxer, and he toyed with him.
Yeah.
And he destroyed him. I mean, this was taken out behind the woodshed, butt whooping is what he got.
Yeah.
He got drugged through the weeds, as you want to say from a street vernacular, because people have become enamored with the knockout, not the art of the craft. Deontay Wilder does not have the art of the craft. He is a knockout artist. And when he goes in there with somebody who understands the craft of boxing, you can see the huge disadvantage that he was in. He was even in that in the first fight, because you knock a guy down twice and he gets up and he pushes you to a draw. That means you did not have the finishing ability. And in this fight, Tyson Fury came in and said, this is what I'm going to do to the guy.
Yeah.
And all that Deontay Wilder could think about is being a showman, coming into the ring with a 45-pound costume on. He took this as a joke, and he got his butt kicked all night long.
Yeah, it was really, one of the, a lot of people call it stunning. I'm a cynical person just by nature. I don't know why, but I tend to believe both times when people tell me something, I listen to the positive and the negative side of that. I know Las Vegas had a lot of money poured in on Wilder winning that fight, and they would not have had to pay out had Wilder won. And that's just my thinking. I'm that way with a lot of things. So Las Vegas really celebrated that fight. Will they fight again? He has that option, the 30-day option. So maybe they'll fight again, but I don't see it happen at least for a year because, as you said, one guy's a puncher, the other guy's a boxer. And, boxing is amazing. It shows me that every person that gets into that ring, it's not about your ego. It's not about how good you look. It's about your skill level. And what I saw, and what I don't mind about seeing, Tyson Fury being the heavyweight champion of the world, is that he carries it well. Number one, he thanked God. A lot of people need that. And then number two, before he even, praised himself, he congratulated, Wilder for being a champion that got knocked down just like he had experienced twice in the first fight, and then he got back up. And so I appreciate that he did it with class. It wasn't those Conor McGregor's gonna insult your religion and your ethnic group. Did that make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you got to think about how Deontay Wilder was insulting Fury all throughout building up to the fight. Fury never insulted him. Deontay Wilder took the goonish role, going in telling everybody what he was going to do. And he spent so much time boasting about his ability, he forgot that he was fighting a fighter. I like Tyson Fury going into the fight. I liked him going into the last fight because he had been a dominant boxer. When you think about a guy the size of Tyson Fury, these are the type of guys, that size, you find somewhere either tackling somebody in the NFL or blocking for somebody in the NFL.
Yeah.
6'9", 275 pounds. This is a behemoth of a man. And if you know anything about athletics, a guy that size is not going to go down easily. He's used to taking shots, and his body can absorb shots. And he proved that in 2 fights. And so people were enamored with Deontay Wilder's build. I mean, there's been many boxers with the body by Fisher and a mind by Mattel, and that's what I look at with Deontay Wilder. He had a toy mind and he had a professional body.
Yeah.
Because he did not prepare for this man. He did not take it serious. And he's not a boxer. You can't teach him how to box. You're going to teach anybody how to slug. All you're doing is hitting a heavy bag, and that's what he does. Yeah. But he doesn't know how to box. He doesn't have the foot movement. He doesn't have the technique. And you could see Tyson Fury exploiting that throughout the fight. He took advantage of every weakness this man had, starting with his mouth.
Yeah, both guys talk. As I saw, both guys they were not like they were in church. They were both saying whatever they got to say to psych themselves up, and everybody goes through that too. But sometimes that's just talk for the show business, because Vegas is show business too. So I've yet to see a fight where people are going to say, hey, I hope you don't get hurt, and I hope that the best man wins. I've always heard that braggadocio. Even Muhammad Ali had it. Everybody had it. Maybe with the exception of Evander Holyfield, I've never really witnessed a fight where two guys didn't talk to each other in I guess you could say intimidating way, if that's possible, before that fight happened.
Mike Tyson never talked to anybody prior to a fight. Mike Tyson just said, look, let's get the weigh-in over so I can go in and knock him out. But he never sat there and taunted anybody throughout his professional career. People had the fear because he would not say anything. Deontay Wilder spent time trying to psych out Tyson Fury, and all Tyson Fury could do is laugh. He said, you're boasting so much energy telling the public what you're going to do to me.
Yeah.
You're lacking training. And if he had spent as much time training and practicing on his technique as he did running his mouth, maybe he'd have stood a better chance in the fight.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's easy to say that after the fact, but they don't orchestrate heavyweight championship fights when one guy has 42 wins, the other has 30 wins, if you haven't earned it, because those men have earned the right to be there. So I don't want to just act like Deontay Wilder who didn't belong there. I do believe, because I've seen
Put it this way, do you know anybody that Deontay Wilder knocked out? Are there any top 10 fighters in the heavyweight division in the world that Deontay Wilder knocked out? And I had this conversation with a few other people over the weekend. Does anybody know anybody that he beat?
Well, even with that, you have one of the world's greatest minds in boxing, that's Teddy Atlas, and he thought that Wilder would win also. We can all become disenfranchised because we see the size of somebody, and you see the 40 knockouts out of 41 fights. That doesn't happen because you fight guys out of the gym. That happens because you fight guys
in the garage, you fight them in the parking lot, in the grocery store.
Well,
like I said, I want to see the record of the people he beat. Anybody can build up a great record.
Yeah.
But if you don't know the history of how he got that record, you're putting up a number up there. And when you're going out and you're knocking out everybody in the first and second round, what you're doing is fighting a bunch of guys with a glass jaw. You haven't even worked up a lather. And you saw that in Deontay Wilder coming into the ring. He hadn't even broken a sweat the time he got into the ring. You saw Fury. He was already lathered up. This is a guy who's used to boxing, knowing that the body needs to be warm. Deontay Wilder took this as he took every other fight that he was fighting bums getting to this point, is that all I got to do is go in there and knock him out. I don't have to worry about my opponent. It's been predetermined.
Yeah, and I differ with you, Big C, because there's a lot of guys that can talk about a guy being a bum, but you wouldn't get in the ring with him. And a lot of guys wouldn't get in the ring with him. It's easy to talk when we're not inside the ring, that the guy's a bum, he's only fought nobodies. But anyone can call Vegas a schedule to fight. I do respect the fact, and what I like about Fury, he said the same thing. Because I know shenanigans going. I'm not that naive. He said
all those punches were shenanigans. Him bleeding from the ear was shenanigans. The second greatest guy in the ring at the ring that night was Mark Breland.
Yeah.
Mark Breland was his corner man who threw in the towel and stopped the fight. This is a guy who's an Olympic gold medalist and was a world champion in his own weight class as a professional. And he knows when a guy has taken enough beating, just because he spent his career in boxing.
Yeah.
And he knew that Deontay Wilder had nothing. Here's a guy that was bleeding from the ear. And once you start bleeding from the ear, most likely you had a ruptured eardrum. So you've lost your equilibrium. So you no longer had the ability to avoid punches or even understand what you were doing in the ring because your equilibrium was gone. And he saw that the guy was hurt beyond recovery. And so he saved Deontay Wilder. We talk about lives in combatant sports where you can lose your life. He was at that point. If this fight had to continue to the 12, he most likely would still be in the hospital today with some type of brain problem.
Right, and I agree that anyone, when you start bleeding from the ear, we don't know what happens. It's about the man has a wife, has children. At the end of the day, we're not barbaric. It's a fight business. But I don't want to call a champion a bum because, to get in the ring with him and knock him out, then you can say that. But even the guy that beat him didn't call him a bum. He said he's a champion, and he said he will be a champion again because they make money by having more fights, even though I don't think they're going to fight the next year. I want to get your thoughts on it because you always talk about the size of a crowd down in the South, in the SEC for colleges. But if I look at what's going to happen money-wise, if Wilder's going to fight Fury again, it's going to be a year later. It's not going to be their next fight. I think for the fight community, because you saw the whole world come to it. I was telling you before, it felt like it was more manufactured. It didn't feel like that that Tyson and Holyfield feel that it had to it. It didn't feel like when Ollie was fighting Foreman. It felt more like they were trying to manufacture it. But what I do know is when you have the European fighters, it's a lot like Wimbledon. They're expecting if he fights Anthony Joshua, it's for the money, like everything's for the money. But they're saying you could have 80,000 plus, and to me, that's a worldwide event. Las Vegas, MGM only holds like 17,000, Big C. To have an 80,000 plus crowd, that you cannot not have that fight happen, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, having an 80-plus thousand crowd is fine for just the vision of it. Half those, 90% of those people are not going to be able to see the fight.
Yeah.
You have to understand, in the boxing world, when you fight in Vegas, that means you arrived as a champ, regardless of the division.
Yeah.
You can fight anywhere in the world. But Vegas is the boxing capital of the world, and you don't arrive until you fight in Vegas. And that's the reason why this fight had to be held in Vegas. If you go back and look at other fights that are held anywhere around the world, if you look at the Pacquiao fight he had in Australia when he lost his title, Charlton, that fight didn't have the luster of the fights that he had in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It is a different world. When you're in Vegas, you're must-see.
Yeah.
As they say, everything goes on in Vegas. You can fight in Wembley and have 75,000 people in the arena. You can fight in Las Vegas and have 17,000.
Yeah.
Those 17,000 people in Vegas, when you talk about gate revenue, is going to equal that crowd in Wimbledon because of the less people you have, it becomes more pricey and more value. You devalue it by having it in a cavernous stadium. I was at the Leonard Duran fight, the first one in Montreal.
Yeah.
There was 75,000 people at that fight. And those people in the upper bowl, they couldn't see what was going on. And anytime they hold a fight in a football arena, and that's what it's for, a football arena.
Yeah.
You don't play basketball games in the middle of a football arena, and you can see 10 guys.
Yeah.
And then you talking about trying to see 2 in a 75,000-seat stadium, it doesn't work.
Well, I think the eyeball, if you're watching, whether it's a soccer game, at the Rose Bowl, they had like 90,000 people watching a soccer game. They've had people in London, or even if Jerry Jones plays 100,000, when they make the seats there. But the size of a person is still the size of a person. So if you can be in a 90,000 or 100,000 seat football stadium and watch a running back that's 6 feet, 200 pounds, you can see a boxer that's 6'7", 6'9", 275
pounds. But you can't see the punch.
Maybe not, but Jerry, that's why he has that big TV down at Jerry Jones World.
That's why you would watch it on television. When you go to a fight, and I've been to many professional fights, and I've sat ringside at a few of them.
Yeah.
The thing is being there that you can feel and hear. It's just like when you watch a hockey game on television, you don't get the feel of the hockey game because you don't hear the cutting of the ice.
Yep.
You don't hear the slapping of the puck. It's totally different. So you're basically removed from the event. Until you see a hockey game live, you can never really understand hockey. And that's the same thing with boxing. Until you can feel and hear the punch, see the sweat flying off of the boxer, Charlton, you lose touch with what you're there for.
Yeah.
And so just because you have an arena that will hold 70,000, you lose the luster of the event. It's like you're at a tennis match, and you're trying to follow the ball. You can't see it. If you've ever been to a PGA golf event, you see them on TV all the time. Unless you're around the green when they're putting, you can't understand the movement of the ball. So it doesn't mean the same.
Yeah, I still, but there's a reason they build 100,000 seat stadiums. They don't build it so people can stay home. And I think what's going to happen, with Fury now being the WBC heavyweight champion, is also considered the lineal heavyweight champion. Joshua, meanwhile, he still holds the WBA, the IBF, and the WBO titles. So that fight between Fury and Joshua that's going to happen, they're both from England. They're both English natives, would be for the undisputed heavyweight championship and a rare chance in the history of the universe for both men. So that's why it's going to happen. And if you believe in anyone that loves Wilder the way a lot of people love their fighters, they're not going to have them fight before the year's up. It wouldn't make any sense. But for the boxing world, I think they'll push for that too. But I still think that boxing is a great sport. I think they're onto something, but not as much as UFC. And what I think this does for the UFC, Big C, is we're talking about 6 months to a year before Fury fights again, and even Wilder, Big C. But UFC is going to have somebody next week and the next week and the next week. Even though they may not have the name, they'll still have the presence and the promotion. That make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, they're two different sports completely. Will Wilder ever fight again? He has to get medically cleared first to be able to fight. Let's put that in perspective. He took a devastating butt whooping in this fight that caused some physical damage to him internally.
Yeah.
And that has to be passed by any, athletic commission that he is healthy enough to go in and fight without risking further damage. So that's something he has to get past first. The fight with Fury, he said he might retire. But, you get to a point, how much is money worth? When you sit there and you look at, here's Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
What if he loses the hearing in that ear that he was bleeding out of? Is going out fighting again worth more money when you can have brain damage, the next step that you're going to deal with?
Yeah, I think for every athlete, they got to face that. Is driving a car worth it when we see people have fatalities every day? But people don't think that way.
We're talking about something where you're taking a direct chance because you know you're going to be hit. In a car, at least you have something protecting you.
Yeah.
We're talking about your ear versus a glove, getting hit 50, 60 times in that ear, if not more.
Yeah.
That can cause catastrophic damage to you. That's what we're looking at. We're not comparing driving a car to boxing. It's totally different.
Well, it may be different, but I don't think, people may just stay in bed in a bubble because you don't want something bad to happen to you. And I don't think fighters are made from that. I think they're made by believing that they can do anything. Every athlete has that. If not, then just don't play the sport because it's too dangerous.
But it comes down, what I'm saying, it comes down to medical clearance.
Yeah.
As an athlete, you don't always have the ability to say that I'm going to do that. Going into training camp, I've seen many athletes flunk a physical, and the team said, no, we're not going to pass you on this physical because we know that you're going to you have a greater chance of being re-injured than you do being healthy.
Yeah,
and that's what any athletic commission has to deal with, Charlton. You're putting someone's potential lifelong health on the line. So you're not just going to pass a guy on a physical to say, okay, because he can make money off of this fight. You have to look at the consequences at the end, that you can be sued because you passed this guy on a physical exam and another doctor comes in and says, no, you shouldn't have.
Yeah, we've seen that second opinions for a lot of people. Kevin Durant just went through that too, and a lot of people do. I got to take what's called the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about something I really want to ask you about in that fight. And again, everybody has their opinion. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Speaker.com. And there's an app that I really love called Google. Our Alexa, just say Google. Our Alexa, play Big C Sports podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he will do his thing. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate that. Also launching in the spring of 2020, the Big C Real Estate TV listing channel in various markets throughout the United States of America. Really looking forward to that. You talked about doctors clearing people, and then in the corner for Wilder, Big C, I believe his trainer had fought in the '84 Olympics, won a gold medal. So that you know when your guy's hurt, and you're not in there to get your guy mortally wounded. You're in there to help your guy win a fight. Some people said the fight was stopped too soon. Others said not soon enough. I thought it was stopped, it was stopped when the people that care about you say stop it. And even though Wilder said he wanted to go out on his shield, that's just adrenaline and ego. That's why football players, they have that 20-minute cool-off period before the players can talk to the media, except for the XFL. They do it right away, which I don't think that's smart. That's something that waiting to happen. But do you think it was stopped too soon, not soon enough, or do you want to see a fighter go out on his shield, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, that's what I'd explained to you earlier, that Mark Breland was the most important guy there on the side of the ring, Charlton. He was the guy you mentioned that fought in the '84 Olympics. He was a gold medalist. He was a professional fighter. He knows when a fighter has gone far enough in a fight. He gave up his career because of some devastating fights that he had lost, Charlton, in the latter part of his career. And he knew from being that guy in the ring on the losing end of that this guy had taken enough. I mean, everybody witnessed Deontay Wilder struggling throughout. I mean, those knockdowns weren't the hardest of punches, but he could not stay up. He had no equilibrium.
Yep.
He went down twice. He put down Fury twice in the first fight.
Yeah.
But there were a lot more distance between those two knockouts. And you look at the two knockdowns that he took from Fury, he basically fell over from being hit because his balance was gone.
Yeah.
And if his balance is gone, then he's lost his equilibrium between his ears because he had potentially a punctured eardrum, Charlton.
Yeah.
So we don't know how badly damaged he was. You can look at, as you say, from a fan's perspective, say, well, the fight stopped too soon. But, you know, when you're taking those devastating punches, and there's a guy who is taking those devastating punches sitting in your corner saying, okay, I couldn't take that anymore.
Yeah.
I've been a world champion.
Yeah.
I know that this guy just doesn't have it. He saw it in his eyes. He saw it in his legs. And he threw in the towel. It's not for the sanctity of the fight, Charlton, but for the guy's health overall.
Yeah, and I agree. Your people who are closer to you, they know when you're stopping anything. So I just congratulate Tyson Fury. I think you'll fight Anthony Joshua next. It would be an event that the boxing universe needs to see, no matter how big or small the arena is. There's just certain times in life you can fight your countrymen for the heavyweight championship of the world. There's something you just got to do, and I think that's going to happen.
Let me give you another perspective on that. You want to know why the heavyweight boxing rank didn't mean anything over the years, Charlton? Because the Klitschko's never fought in America. They always fought in Europe.
Yeah.
So it never had the luster. You have to have America's crowd behind the heavyweight boxing title, Charlton. So the Klitschko's spent a decade fighting over in Europe. They never fought in Las Vegas. Think about how big they would have been if they had fought in Las Vegas. It would have brought interest to the heavyweight ranks. And that's why fighting around the world, you can be fighting in front of 100,000 people, but you can have 10,000 people in Las Vegas, and your title means more by fighting in Las Vegas than it does anywhere around the world.
Yeah,
it has more extensional revenue that you could earn because you're the heavyweight champion and you proved it in Las Vegas.
And that may be true to certain. I mean, depending on what point of view you have. But if you're both English and you can bring it back, you can bring it home. Just like the World Cup is huge, soccer is bigger in England than it is in the United States of America. I just think it makes more sense if they can go to the end of their career saying, you know what, the universe lined it up for us to fight at home, and we chose to fight across the pond in the United States of America. I just don't think they're going to skip that.
How big was Lennox Lewis? And he was the heavyweight champion of the world because he wanted to fight only at home in England.
Yeah.
Think about it was another guy, Trevor Bobbitt, who also wanted to fight over there, Charlton. They did not have luster because they did not fight in Vegas.
Yeah.
They fought in Europe, and that's when the heavyweight title started losing its luster after Mike Tyson because the champions wanted to fight abroad, and they did not have that Vegas appeal. And without that Vegas appeal, you look at MMA, they hold more fights in Vegas than they do anywhere else because they know once they have the Vegas crowd, Charlton, they can fight anywhere.
Yeah, but I think that they may have some truth. But again, if you're English, you have a chance to bring it home. I think that's going to happen. That's going to be on their resume. But also,
how much interest did Tyson Fury get prior to fighting Deontay Wilder and fighting in Vegas? Did you know anything about him? No. You and many of the other people around the world knew nothing about him. Once he became a fighter in Vegas, he became a marquee entity.
That's not necessarily true. He became a marquee entity because he's undefeated. But to say that the crowd...
Did you know about him in his first 27 fights?
I knew about him, and I knew about Wilder also. But what I also know, since following boxing from about the 1970s, if you go where people build up the media, that's how you get to know about people. That's why the fights went so well. And even in MMA, if you say they don't fight as much outside of Vegas, that's not true. It's growing outside of the world, especially in Brazil, more than in Las Vegas. But just because we don't have TVs there, it doesn't mean they don't exist. So I think it's going to happen, and those men will prove that out too. But I also want to get onto this in the last part of our show, because just like I remember Al Michaels, do you believe in miracles? And the USA beat the Russia in hockey. Alex Ovechkin, he did something to join 8 other men in the world. He scored his 700th goal, and he did it in the third period against the New Jersey Devils on Saturday. And I think about Ovechkin, and we had so many things that happened over the weekend. It was kind of brushed aside because it really didn't have the world importance, in my opinion, of the Wilder and Fury fight, and then having the Kobe Bryant celebration today. And then we saw some college upsets happen also. But this was a landstone, I guess a milestone for the NHL to have Ovechkin become among that 700 elite club. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he's in the 700 elite club, but do you think about, will he be able to catch Wayne Gretzky? You know, you think about the distance between him and Wayne Gretzky as far as the scoring champion all-time in NHL history. He's a lineal years away from that.
Yeah, and he may not and it's not about Gretzky. It's about his celebration, Big C. He won to be one of 8 to get to 700. There's not 15 guys in 700. There's only 8 of them now, and he's part of it. And, I mean, the fact that it took him a long time to get to that point because he could have been there about a month ago, but it didn't happen. But for me, even the world of hockey, I'm not Canadian. I wonder what it means to Canada because, as you talked about, fighting in Europe is not as important as fighting in Vegas. Well, there are people who have the same, thoughts about hockey in Canada that is bigger in Canada than it is in the United States. But I'm sure wherever you are is where you are, Big C, and it has to be big. But I wonder if Canada celebrated that too, or was it mostly just about his team in Washington, Big C? Your thoughts?
But no, Charleston, hockey celebrated in Canada in every way. And if you understand the record between him and Wayne Gretzky, he actually reached 700 goals quicker in his career than what Wayne Gretzky did.
Yeah.
But it also leaves him 195 goals behind Wayne Gretzky. And when you think about the torrid and physical pace of the NHL now versus what it was when Wayne Gretzky started his career at Charleston, and Adam Ovechkin, that was his 40th goal of the season when he scored his 700, he would have to average 50 goals a year, Charlton, really, over the next 5 years to break, or 4 years to break Wayne Gretzky's record at his pace being 195 behind. And I don't know if he can keep up that torrid pace, even though he has scored 50 goals 8 times in his NHL career, and he'll be 35 next season. How will that torrid pace of the league keeps up? I mean, but when NHL players break records and join the hollow grounds, they all celebrate, just like in any other sport, just like in baseball.
Yeah.
If you reach the 600 home run plateau, you reach the 300 win plateau, the 3,000 strikeout plateau. Everybody in a sport celebrates those type of plateaus because it's a rarity that individuals get to those points. And being one of the only 8 members in NHL history, and you think about the time that the NHL has been around, the NHL has been around for, 80 years.
Yeah.
And so these players who are participating are part of the legacy of that sport.
Well, I just congratulate the man on that. I still remember, do you know if they sterilized that cup that he had when the Capitals won Lord Stanley's Cup a couple of years ago? That was amazing for them, for the city of Washington, D.C., that region that has a lot to celebrate, whether it's, Major League Baseball winning a championship, having Washington's hockey team win it just the year before. And now maybe that gives the Washington Redskins hope, Big C. I don't know if that's going to get the hope or not, but we'll definitely see what's going to happen for them. I do want to just touch a little bit on the NBA basketball schedule tonight. And no matter who you are, after seeing that great celebration down at Staples Center in Southern California, there's still a lot of basketball that has to be played. And some guys may do it with heavy hearts, or they may do it with a lot of gratitude, because we all have to be grateful. Tonight's schedule: Atlanta is at Philadelphia, Milwaukee is at Washington, Big C, Miami is at Cleveland, Orlando is at Brooklyn, while the New York Knicks are at the Houston. And they're at Houston. I mean, it's amazing how many players are going to have to either miss a game or get on a private jet and get back in time for a tip-off, because a lot of athletes that are playing tonight, they were actually in Los Angeles earlier today, but private jets can do that for you. Minnesota is at Dallas, Phoenix is at Utah, and then Memphis is at the LA Clippers. And I know when you go to LA, it's all about LA. It's not about the Clippers when you're outside of Los Angeles. If you're a Clippers fan, then you love the Clippers because you love the Clippers. But LA is really, it's like the whole universe for Los Angeles basketball. So I don't know if that's going to affect the emotions of the players down in playing for the Clippers against Memphis tonight. Do you think that has any hangover, or they just got to stay focused, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you look at the celebration that went on today in Los Angeles, you got to realize Kobe and his daughter were laid to rest back on the 7th of February. So the family has dealt with that. This was a public memorial that was held today in honor of the 9 people who lost their lives on that helicopter, Charlton.
Yeah.
The players in the NBA, they don't fly commercial at any time, regardless of the game they go into. It's always in a private jet scenario. The teams have private jets. Owners own private jets, so if players want to go to an event such as they did today, they're going to be on that jet and back to wherever they have to be within hours, and they're not sitting there waiting to get in line, on the tarmac at a commercial airport.
Yeah, so we wish all the athletes that showed up, and one thing that I love that Michael Jordan said, that a lot of people know about Mike because of the TV commercials and and 6 NBA championships, and the bald head and all the persona that goes around Michael Jordan. But something he said that I think anyone can relate to, and it's not about grandstanding. He said people are here because it matters, and just to remind people to love the people that are in your life now, because they have to matter more than a person you did not know. I mean, that's just my own opinion, so I hope that they pay homage to that too. And the Lakers play tomorrow night against New Orleans Pelicans. Big C, the role of college basketball, March Madness doesn't start for a couple of weeks, but it feels like it's March Madness now just because, and I think this is a good thing. I was saying that Kansas would knock off Baylor. I mean, I didn't put no money on it. I would have been down in Vegas, but I don't bet on things. But I thought Kansas would beat them because I thought they were playing better, and that's just the way it went down. It happened to go down that way. Gonzaga also lost at BYU, which doesn't make any sense because I think Gonzaga's a better team than BYU, Big C. But those things happen. San Diego State got knocked off by UNLV, and I was telling you that if San Diego State, if they were in the Big East or the ACC or the Big Ten or Pac-12 or SEC, I don't think they would be undefeated. So they lost to a 500 UNLV team. It's any given night that things can happen. But are you shocked at all that Kansas went on the road and knocked off a Baylor team that had not lost, but when they played at the University of Washington earlier in the season? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Kansas had not lost since they played Baylor last time. That was Kansas' last loss. When you look at college basketball and you get down to this time of the year, every game is like your tournament playoffs that you have when you're seeking your tournament championship. So when you go out there, guys don't want to lose. It doesn't make any difference whether you have a 500 record or a 200 record.
Yeah.
Your goal as a player is to be competitive. And if your opponent is going to take you lightly when they roll up in there saying, okay, because we're a better team on paper than what they are, and I've always been enamored by that. People talk about on paper, they're a better team. But on the court, are you a better team? I mean, you have to look at the fortitude of an athlete. Do you care about winning, or do you just want to lay down?
Yeah.
And I always thought, regardless of what the record was on the team that I was participating on, that I was the best individual at my position on that given day.
Yeah. And I think everybody has to think that way. If not, why even play the rankings? And again, it's just a ranking. It's somebody's opinion. They haven't played. If rankings matter, then the teams that are ranked lower would never beat the teams ranked higher. It's always somebody's opinion, Big C. Kansas comes out today number 1, previous number 3. Baylor comes out number 2. They were previous number 1. Gonzaga, the Bulldogs, they come out number 3, previously number 2. Followed by Dayton at ranked number 4, previous number 5. San Diego State at number 5, previous number 4, Big C. Florida State is number 6 in the country. They were previously number 8. And then America's favorite team, it seems, for college basketball is Duke. They are ranked number 7. They were previously number 6. Kentucky, the Wildcats are always scratching on somebody, Big C, number 8, previously number 10. Maryland, they lost at Ohio State. They are number 9 in the country, previously number 7. And then Creighton's at number 10, and they were previously number 15. And that's what I love about college basketball. You got to earn it on the court. Doesn't matter what your ranking is. It goes to the team that makes the most points, last I heard. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that's the joy of college basketball. When we look at young men that are very competitive, that have that ingenuity of how to structure a victory, Charlton, and we see that week in and week out. We always want to sit there and say, I like this team more than I like that team.
Yeah.
But it comes down to the young men. Do you like winning or do you like losing?
Yeah.
And the season is long. You want to be able to get a good seeding in your conference tournament. And so you fight throughout. If you're a 500 club, if you're a 700 club, you still want that seeding, because once you get to that tournament, you have 3 to 4 games to decide whether you're going to get into the March Madness.
Yeah, I want to ask you something, and congratulations on whoever wins the game. It's all fair, love, and war. You know, you always say golf is a gentleman's game, and I can't wait until the Masters down there in Augusta, Georgia, Big C. Patrick Reed, he plays better, but he's accused of cheating. He won the championship down in Mexico over the weekend in Mexico City. Think about this. Some of the guys that I talk about, this is why I believe in shenanigans, because I knew so many shenanigans growing up. See, the bookies had Patrick Reed at 40-1 odd going into the Mexico championship, which should have come down before it even hit a shot. There have been, say it ain't so, Big C, there have been accusations of the Gentlemen's Club, Big C, that he's cheating. Now, how do you cheat on a golf course? Brooks Koepka, during the town hall, the guy that takes a lot of, I guess you'd call it weightlifting, or maybe he drinks a lot of orange juice. He said on a program earlier that they thought there were some things going on in this. Do golfers cheat, Big C? How do you cheat when you're out in the daylight, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you got so many cameras on a golf course. I mean, everybody alleges things when they're not winning.
Allegedly.
They want to say that somebody has an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
You can sit there and you see cameras on every shot on the golf course. So I guess, everybody has instant replay.
Yeah.
And if instant replay is not proving it and you're frustrated because you can't beat somebody, you can come up with any scenario that you want to come up with.
Yeah, you can. So at least if you got the body and the build of Koepka, there's a lot of guys that are saying that he's doing something too. So if he's going to come out and say that somebody's cheating, he might want to maybe, look in the mirror before he accuses another person out in public. But it's all fair and love and war. I do want to I want to get your thoughts on something, because football really, it's like a year-round business. And I know we have the talk about the NFL going to 17 games, and some players right now, they're holding their tongue, or they're saying they don't agree with it. And whether it's Damari Smith or not, about the NFL, Players Association president, are they going to agree to the 17 games? I think they should focus on health care more than making, an extra few dollars from playing a game, Big C. But do you feel that they're going to just cave in to what the NFL, it's 17 games, the man with the money rules, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the man with the money is the owner, Charlton. And when people get misinformation when it comes to the NFL.
Yeah.
They think everybody in the NFL is a multimillionaire. No, there's a lot of thousandaires in the NFL.
Yeah.
When you think that 20% of the players on the roster, Charlton, get 80% of the money. So you got that 80% of the roster doling out only 20% of the money.
Yeah.
So when you think about, there's an unfair discrepancy as far as what players make on NFL rosters. The guys who have the 10, the 15, the 25, $30 million contracts don't mind playing an extra game.
Yeah.
But it's the guy who is sitting out there with the $800,000 salary, the $1 million salary, where they're not making that type of money, Charlton, where their paycheck is not as big. Those are the players who are going to fight against this stuff, Charlton, when they talk about reduction of preseason games and going right into the regular season. You got to realize on an NFL roster, Charlton, the players number 40 through 53, they don't matter to a team. They're the ones without job security. It's that first 40 on the roster that have job security, because that's the depth chart.
Yeah.
There's 13 guys that are irrelevant, and so they need as many opportunities as they can in the preseason to secure that they have a roster spot, because they're on that margin line.
Yeah.
When we talk about the players representing the team, they have the guaranteed contracts. Those are the guys who are all making over $10 million a year. So getting an extra game is not going to hurt them. Cutting the preseason is not going to hurt them. It's the marginal players that don't have those $1 million contracts, that are the $100,000 players, Charlton, that are most concerned about this.
Yeah, and I know it'd be nice if they had some open door meetings. You know how we have in politics when you can see, well, maybe I should apologize about politics. You never know what the votes are, because sometimes they have those hanging chads, or sometimes votes don't get counted. We know what with all the talk about our votes going to be counted this year or not. Just go out and vote anyway, and we got to hope for the best. I hope that we can see some open dialogue, the same way we have the Hall of Fame induction. Why not have those meetings be open dialogue? Like, they can even put it on C-SPAN, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is corporate America, Charlton. Does Walmart have open dialogue when they're having corporate meetings? Does any part of corporate America open its doors to the public saying, we want you to understand what our billion-dollar business is? No, Charlton, this is the reason why owners who have always been involved in lawsuits settle the lawsuits prior to going to court. The former owner of the Carolina Panthers, the late Thomas Benson in New Orleans, they had lawsuits over the past couple of years, Charlton, where instead of having it go into court, Charlton, they settle it out of court, because the NFL and its 32 owners have an unwritten rule. You will not disclose what we do business-wise. This is not for public consumption in any capacity.
Yeah, and that makes sense. But let me ask you, because I heard some good old boys say there's no way they'll have a push for health care, because most guys are just trying to hold on 3 years. They don't have any clout. It would take everybody, and not just the guys trying to last 3 years. Big C, your thoughts?
That's what I was just mentioning, Charlton, when I said the thousandaires.
Yeah.
Those guys need their money now. They're not worried about longevity.
Yeah.
As people in the public thinks that all of the NFL players have guaranteed contracts and they're all making millions of dollars. As I stated, 20% of the salary cap of the team goes to about, 20% of the 80% of the salary cap goes to 20% of the players on each team.
Yeah.
And then you got 80% of the players scrapping for 20% of the money.
Yeah.
Those players cannot withstand strikes. When you think about where they are in debt, Charlton, most of them are in over the head.
Yeah.
You got to understand the tax bases of some of the cities and states that they live in.
Yeah.
They're not making that much money as far as what the superstar on the team is making.
Yeah.
So they don't want to see a strike. Fighting for health care, yeah, but what do they have to give up to get the health care? They got to play that extra game. And that extra game is what I was talking about, them not being able to stay in the preseason long enough to make the roster. As I said, player 40 through 53 on the roster are all replaceable every year. That's the reason why we see turnover in the NFL. Those are the players who are going to be most resistant to holding out for more. They're going to vote, let's play because I need my money.
Yeah.
The guy, those quarterbacks with those $100 million contracts, they can say, I can sit back. I got money in the bank.
Yeah.
Those first-round draft picks who's gotten those $10 to $20 million signing bonuses, I can sit back. I got my money in the bank.
Yeah.
But the guy who was a 6th-round draft pick, 5th-round draft pick, that's a free agent, who's working for less than $1 million, Charlton, he wants to be in camp.
He wants to be in camp. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Spreaker.com. You can follow Big C Sports on 2 apps that I love called Google. Our Alexa, say Google. Our Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he will do his thing. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate that. Launching the Big C Real Estate Listing Channel in the spring of 2020, and I really look forward to seeing things happen in the world of e-commerce. And just closing out on today's show, it's been, to me, a really fascinating weekend from Ovechkin doing his thing and getting to 700. I know a lot of people really appreciate that. A lot of the baseball teams right now, Big C, they are getting ready for that spring training. We've seen a lot of good old boys swinging the bats at spring training. I know what's going on with Houston. I think they're going to put an asterisk, so that means it didn't happen because they put an asterisk on it, Big C, but we know it's all fair and love and war. With the Kobe Bryant celebration, everybody has to celebrate life. I mean, just being grateful. We all have so much to be grateful for. And I love that we have that going for us too, Big C. And again, college basketball, a lot of things happen that you don't know who's going to win until they cut down the nets at the Final Four. We look forward to that. Big C, your final thoughts on this thing that I want to ask you, because it's kind of funny to me. I know sometimes they say you are known by the company you keep, and if it talks like a duck and walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. How do you know Jerry Jones bought a new yacht, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Jerry made it very public, last year at Christmas that, he had bought a new yacht, that he went out and extended himself and put $252 million into a boat that floats. And so, I know he's not on it today, so, if I can utilize it, I'd greatly appreciate it.
I thought you guys were both trying to park your yachts at the marina, and he did like the guys with the new cars. He parked on both lines. That make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I always double park, y'all, and trying to keep the inside of my doors.
I understand, Big C. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, we had an exciting weekend in sports, that we looked at and saw some records broken and some movement in the college rankings. And we were coming down that home stretch in the NBA, but I'm still so excited about college basketball's home tournaments, Charlton, because there's nothing like March Madness in basketball, and we'll have that in just 3 weeks.
We'll have it in just 3 weeks, and we made the best team win, and you can win too, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.